Hello again, Struck. I am making some more ready for launch Diablo 4 builds slash Theorycrafts that should be good for both fresh into endgame characters as well as late endgame development if you follow the advised skill points and paragons. This one is Starfall 2.0, 2.0 version of the Starfall Sorcerer build I made before the betas. And I asked on YouTube and you answered. And Starfall was the most voted build in regards to things you would like to see me do first. So I hope you enjoyed this version because with some of the new things I've added to the build, this makes the playing field seem as if you've just walked into a hell-tight area. It would make regular areas look as if they are a hell-tight area from the amount of meteors and meteorites that fall from the sky, from the amount of stars we are making fall. I definitely think this build would be super fun to play. I can't wait to test it out myself eventually after the game launches. Um, in the beta, obviously, I ran something similar and I really enjoyed it, and it gave me some ideas, and that's why I am using the things I'm using. For example, not using Fireball. I hope you enjoyed as well. Buckle up, Struck up, and let's go. As usual, let's start with the skill trees. I've received some feedback that people want me to use the Diablo calculators more than I use my spreadsheets, and I'll try to do that myself. But keep in mind that in those skill trees, I can only read the description of whatever I'm hovering over. Whereas if I use my own spreadsheets that I made specifically for the purpose of making those videos, I can easily see the skills next to each other and read them. So here are the skills I'm using. I'll actually even use my own website if it makes it look better. I'm using Firebolt as the builder, as the basic skill generator. With upgrades for enhanced Firebolt and upgrades for flickering rather than glinting, just so you can see them back to back next to each other to see why I've made the choice I've made. Fireball is only a temporary skill. You use it until you unlock your meteor. Meteor is what you would use to spam rather than a core skill. So fireball is good. It's an option that you can maybe put a point into eventually for enchantment purposes, but overall enhance fireball, and if you were using fireball, I would recommend destructive. Although I guess greater also it doesn't matter. You only use it temporary, pick whichever you like. I personally um myself would recommend maybe going for this one for the greater fireball. So more burning damage, 10% of the burning damage you've applied as additional direct damage. Now, in passive skills, Devastation 3 points, I think it's really great. I think Flame Shield and Teleport, 1 point is more than enough for those. Put 1 point into them, enhance them, and give both of them the shimmering upgrades. I think that would be lovely. This one gives you immune. This one can give you a 30% damage reduction after casting it, after teleporting for 5 seconds. This one also gives you movement speed. This one also gives you healing for 50% of your missing life, which is just amazing. And on top of that, you combine it with this skill. Where did it go? Protection. So using this skill will give you 30% of your maximum life as a barrier. Using this skill will give you 30% of your maximum life as a barrier. And with elemental attunement, you have chance to reset the cooldown every 10 seconds of one of your defensive skills to keep you building that barrier as much as possible. Next, we're moving on to Conjuration, and we have Hydra, which is enhanced and which is invoked. I really loved using Invoked, and I think with this build, Invoked fits better than this one. Although if you don't like Invoked, obviously it's a matter of a single point to switch to Summoned. Align the elements maxed out, I think it's really great and needed. Mana Shield, I didn't put points into, not enough points. for it, but precision magic is extremely important must have for this build. This build relies heavily in many ways on wacky hit chance. Having this wacky hit chance from here, as well as I have an item that gives me wacky hit chance as a legendary aspect. And there's other things you would see even for enchantment. I'm using Meteor as an enchantment, but more about enchantments in a moment, which is also wacky hit. And this chance is increased. This 3% chance is probably going to be 10% as a base. And if you add that 15% here and then another 10 to 20 from wacky hit, you get up to 35 extra wacky hit chance to make sure this is happening. And that's excluding any wacky hit chance from gear drops as well, from rolls on gear. Now, the meteors that fall faster are my preferred rather than the immobilizing. We have plenty of ways to immobilize. Obviously, we are enhancing. In here, I'm putting 3 points into Ice Veil for increased duration of our barriers. I love barriers. This build is, in general, on any sorcerer build, I strongly suggest picking protection and picking Ice Veil. Remember to use protection, kids. So Ice Veil is a great combo for any build that uses barriers. And then we have Inner Flames maxed out, Crippling Flames maxed out, and Devouring Blaze maxed out. As for the ultimate, I picked Inferno. The obvious choice. I really loved playing with Inferno. It synergizes very well with Meteors to cluster up the enemies with the pulling. And then the skills costing you no mana while Inferno is active is just another cherry on top of the cake, which means you can just spam Meteors for 8 seconds as much as you want. Fire Research 3 points and So Fire 2 points. We can only put 2 points here, and I think skills costing 10% less mana is more than enough for us. That shaves off 4 from the cost of Meteor. And then Warmth 3 points I think is needed, especially against bosses. Um, and then we have Essus Ferocity. So your fire crit strike damage is increased by X, by 25 actually, not X. Multiplicative against enemies above 50%, and crit chance with fire skills is increased by 5% against enemies below 50% life. Killing an enemy with a crit strike grants both bonuses against all enemies for 3 seconds. When it comes to enchantments, I decided to use Meteor and Hydra. I already told you about Meteor, but Meteor Wiki hit 3% chance, which again will be boosted after that patch. So starting with the next server slam beta, this should be already boosted. We'll see the exact number then. And I really liked Hydra. After spending 300 mana, a 5-headed Hydra appears for 5 seconds. I think this stacks well, but alternative options would be Flame Shield, Firebolt, even Firewall. But I think something that some people might wanna experiment with is Lucky Hit. Conjuration skills have 30% chance to unleash a Frost Nova when hitting enemies. But of course, you would need at least 1 point into this to be able to use it. The same goes for Frozen Orb. At least 1 point would be needed to use it. Another good alternative would be probably Ice Armor. I've tested it and it doesn't work half bad. So hopefully this is clear. I personally would recommend those two, but you might want to switch things up. So this is what it looks like on the skill tree. There will be links to this one on my spreadsheet. From that spreadsheet, you can just access it from here. Next up, let's talk about the unique item I've chosen. I've chosen the Shako or Shako, the Harlequin Crest, which gives you amazing stuff like damage reduction and 2 ranks to all skills. But that's not all. It also gives you maximum life. It gives you cooldown reduction, very valuable cooldown reduction. Amazing synergy for many builds, including this one. And what we do have is crafting material drop rate. This item, even if you don't like it, even if you decide to use another unique item, I strongly recommend using that when doing Hell Tides. Hell Tides will drop certain materials that only drop there. And since they're a limited kind of event that happens once every second hour, from what we've heard. That means you would definitely want to get that crafting material drop rate while there, even if you swap it out for something else later. And it also gives you all stats. As I mentioned earlier, I have two setups for the Paragons. One that's at level 90 without renown points. So with renown points, you probably would be able to achieve the same one at 85. And one with the max points. I'll show those later. Um, but yeah, with the unique item, this is I decided this one would fit greatly. There are other options, but I think hopefully you understand why I selected this item. Now, for the legendary aspects, I'll first list what goes in which slot and eventually show you the powers of each of them. Aspect of the Protector goes in the helmet temporarily until you get the unique head, the Shako, the Shako, the Harlequin Crest. Once you get that one, obviously, Aspect of the Protector you are losing from the setup. Aspect of Three Curses in the amulet, I actually have to show you why. Aspect of Three Curses is a very, very strong thing. And for this build, it will boost your meteor damage. So this one from 35, 50 becomes, I think, 47.5. No, I think it's 42 or something like that. So it gets 17.5 on top of it. So 52.5 onto 75, if my math is correct. So you get between 50 and 75 roughly percent chance, not chance, increased crit strike damage against healthy targets if this is in the amulet. You get 50% more of 35, 50% more of 50. Um, so it's amazing. It's good to get things started in your combos, in your boost, and I think that's the reasonable thing to put in there. Alternatively, you can consider putting in the helmet that, but you would have to move things around, and it's going to be difficult. So I still recommend going for this one there. Alternatively, this one is also not a bad thing, but it's not needed to be in the amulet. Then what you have in on the chest is Exploiter aspect. I love using that on every build. Then aspect of the Unwavering Independence, Elementalist on the gloves, Bounding Conduit on the boots, aspect of Shattered Stars, Ring 1, Ring 2 Incendiary, the one-handed weapon or two-handed if you use, aspect of Ancient Flame, and in the offhand aspect of Armageddon. Now let's go through those. First aspect of Armageddon, a hail of meteorites falls during Inferno, dealing fire damage on impact. Your meteorites immobilize enemies for 3 seconds. Remember this one, it says your meteorites immobilize. But we also have meteorites fall around meteor, dealing X fire damage on impact, and your meteorites additionally burn enemies they hit for um, 3 times this X damage here over 6 seconds. This one says your meteorites, it doesn't specify meteorites from this, which means that the bonus here that the meteorites burn should apply to those, and it also should apply to those. And the same way the immobilize from this one should apply to both this and this one's meteorites. So those used together seem to combine very well. At least on paper, I suspect that's the case. Since we're using Estus Ferocity, I think it's a must-have aspect of Ancient Flame. While both bonuses from the Estus Ferocity keep passive are active, your attack speed, which also affects casting speed in this game, is increased by 40 to 50%. Then Core Mastery skills cast at or above 100 mana gain 20 to 40% increased crit strike chance. And we also have that Wacky Hit burning damage has up to a 5 to 10% chance to restore mana. But thanks to this one, Wacky Hit chances increase by 10 to 20 when you have a barrier. And when you have the passive that gives you 15% more, that's up to 35% increase to this 5 to 10 percent chance. And that's excluding any Wacky Hit chance rolled on items like, for example, the way you see maximum life cooldown here, etc. There could be Lucky Hit chance on some of your items. Taking direct damage has X chance, 5 to 10 actually, to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. This synergizes very well with teleport flame shield, and this thing. Where did it go? Elemental attunement. The 5 to 10% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills every 10 seconds. So while this one can happen every 10 seconds, this one can happen all the time. Now you have 20% increased crowd control duration and deal multiplicative increased damage to unstoppable enemies. This is the main reason why we're taking this. I take this on every build because it shouldn't be underestimated how often bosses and the big elites, big champions would be unstoppable. You want that extra damage when they're unstoppable. You want that extra crowd control duration to make sure they get stunned or whatever faster. And here's something that is temporary, not temporary, something that is not a must have is the bounding conduit. You get movement speed for 3 seconds after teleporting. This you can completely remove it. You can put something else. You could put a utility one, or you could move the exploiter and put another defensive there, or you could. There's some options you could do, but overall, I think this probably might require you to actually put aspect of fortune there. So this one again, this is optional, not a must have. It's if you want that. I wouldn't recommend having it, but if you want to have it, it can go there. But this is how I would run it. Aspect of fortune would actually be on the boots. So keep that in mind. And aspect of the protector, damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier, absorbing up to X damage for 10 seconds. This effect can only happen once every 30 seconds. This is the thing that is temporary and that will go away from the build once you get the unique. And now let's talk a little bit about sockets and gems. It will be quick. First of all, full diamonds is great. With full diamonds, you get ultimate skill damage, barrier regeneration, and resistance to all elements. But there are other things you could do to fit certain situations. On weapons, diamond, skull, and sapphire, as well as amethyst are good. Crit strike damage to crowd controlled enemies, damage over time, life on kill, all are just as good as ultimate skill damage for this setup. Especially this one because you would have plenty of crowd control with the amount of immobilized this build gets. Now for the armor, other than the diamond, I would say the skull is good because healing received, and we have certain things like Inferno that heal us. And we also have, optionally, you can even use a ruby for maximum life. Not a bad choice overall. But I would still suggest going for the diamond for this setup in the armor for barrier generation. Jewelry, as I said, resistance to all elements unless you need a specific type of resistance. So if you need poison or fire or shadow or lightning or cold resistance, obviously you would want to put the right type of gem there. But other than that, hopefully it is clear. In terms of gear rows, there's like almost 300 total affixes, so you have plenty of options. But I've shortlisted it to roughly 36. Some of those I've paired up though. So obviously, this with the orange is high priority. This with the regular golden text on my website is low priority. If you're looking at my spreadsheet, white text higher priority, blue text maybe lower priority. But overall, it doesn't mean that something at the top of this list is higher priority than something at the bottom. Most of the cases that would be the case, but keep in mind anything that gives you damage, crit damage, or crit strike chance, regardless whether it's without specifying a skill or specifying mastery skill category, not core mastery is what you need. Whether it specifies fire damage or not, Wacky hit chance definitely amazing, must have for this build as much as possible. So yeah, any bonuses to fire damage, whether it's fire damage, fire crit chance, fire crit damage, also resistance to all elements, definitely nice. Cooldown reduction, definitely nice. Mastery skill damage, actually this and this are probably the same. I need to maybe remove one of them. Damage to elites, fire damage to elites, crit chance, crit damage with fire against elites, crit chance, crit damage after killing an elite, fire damage after killing an elite, damage reduction after killing an elite. So many good things you can think of, but also close enemies. With this build, you would probably want to stay closer to the enemies, even though it's good for ranged. With the amount of flame shield and barrier after teleport and danger reduction after teleport we get, we can stay closer. Damage to burning enemies, to crowd controlled enemies, damage while you're healthy. Then again, this one I probably added here crit strike, crit chance to burning, and so on. Overall, there's many things you can consider. Obviously, damage versus injured versus healthy and stuff like that. Movement speed, attack speed, not bad. Resource cost reduction and stuff like that. But overall, I think I would prioritize the offensive stats I've included here and the lucky hit chance. As I told you, for the Paragon boards, I've added two versions. I mean, it's one version, but then the other one is the upgraded, fully maxed out version. So first off, we have this at level 90 without any renown from Paragons. This 10 renown is from the skills. So without putting any of the 20 points you can get from renown, this is what it would look like. Just to show you the big picture. This means that you should be able to get this stage at level 85. If it says 90 here, we have 20 more points from renown. That means 5 more levels of points worth. So at level 85, you should be able to get this. You're starting with the basic tree, moving into elementalist, skipping this HP for life, and taking some willpower here because it's needed. Taking some dex here and strength here. We need intelligence. But we didn't take the full intelligence. I did take this resistance to all elements and intelligence. We'll later return to this board to put some more intelligence, most likely, to get this additional bonus. After spending 50 mana, you do increased damage and gain increased mana regeneration, but it's not needed. It's not needed, so you don't need to return to this tree. As you can see, I didn't actually return to this tree. I just took what I felt was worth having. Why? Because over here we have 240% bonus to all magic nodes within range. So I boosted the non-physical damage here, even the dex. So I decided to just take those nodes, and I decided to take those. I decided to not take this or that. I think that's more than enough. And as you can see, the only thing I returned for here was to take those later when I was filling. Then we're moving on to this board. Let's zoom out a bit, which is Searing Heat. And I would suggest before moving on to Searing Heat, first coming over here, taking this one, taking that stuff on the way, and eventually moving over here. Why over there and not another way? Because it just works better that way, because we need the willpower from over there. And you need 25 willpower. With this, the way I've done it, we get 29. And with that, you have every pyromancy skill cast or every second you channel incinerate, which we don't care about. Your fire damage is boosted by 2% multiplicative for 6 seconds up to 10% extra. So if you cast 5 skills, including Hydra, it also counts as a pyromancy skill, including Flame Shield. So everything casts, everything counts, even firebolts. Casting 5 of them, boom, you already have the bonus. And this boosts the fire damage and damage reduction to nodes within range. The game doesn't show you this, but this 5 should turn into 17. This 5 should turn into 17. This 5 should turn into 17. Um, the game would do it, but this calculator doesn't have the script for it. This fire resistance should turn into, I think, 20. Um, I think it's about 20. I think that you would get, or 19.6 or something like that. So that's gonna be a lot of fire resistance. You wouldn't need to worry about it. And then you're moving on here, getting this fire damage on the way, and then going all the way here. After you've gone there, move down, and on the way to exit, take some damage reduction to enemies that are burning, fire resistance, more of it. Keeper of Flames, again, pretty solid, and this one. And that connects you on this side to the Enchantment Master. And again, I would recommend taking this before going there. First off, you have some non-physical damage here, which affects fire, and more of it, and more of it, and some decks. Then you SWAT Adept. For every 5 int within range, mastery skills gain 14.4 increased damage, which means you probably would want to return. You definitely would want to return later to get as much intelligence as possible. But first things first, you get at least 40. At least 40 for mastery skills have 20% increased area, which affects your meteor. You want that extra area of meteor. It's a good bonus for it. So you get this intelligence, this one gives you intelligence as well, and this one gives you intelligence as well. Then you're ready to move out. And since you've taken this, might as well grab that one. Although you could skip one of those two resistances if you don't need them, if you want to save some points. Moving up, 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 up. Take this 1 point, but before taking it, I would rather go here first. And then you can take those things here, which is damage to elites, non-physical damage, non-physical damage, damage to elites, non-physical damage, non-physical damage, damage to elites. This one again, enchantment 20% stronger, which is pretty solid. And then this should boost the chance of spawning Meteor. Meteor had 3% chance. They said that they boosted it. They didn't say how much with the patch notes. Let's say it got up to 10%. This boosts it to be 20% stronger. Probably it will be 12% chance, excluding any wacky hit chance we have from other sources. And then the Hydra. Hydra, I'm not sure how it would work. Probably instead of 300 mana, you would need to spend 300 minus 20%, which would be 240 if I'm not mistaken, to summon a Hydra. And then you take this one and move out of this board from above. And next you take this Tactician, 240% bonus to all rare nodes within range. And if you have enough decks, you get X 10% increased damage for 4 seconds after casting a defensive skill, which synergizes greatly with the way I've built the rest of the stuff. This one, damage to burning enemies and intelligence boosted by this 240%. More damage to burning, some willpower on the way. If you're taking this route, you don't need this willpower, but if you don't take this willpower, you won't be able to take that one. Now over here we're skipping this, but we're going around here, taking damage reduction from enemies that are burning and a massive intelligence because of the boost, and taking this, and this. We need the dex for this note, and after this, you are ready with the level 85 with renown points, level 90 without renown points setup. You can move on to the big boy setup, which is maxing out everything completely, squeezing those boards dry for everything they're worth. This one, by the way, it's not worth the points you would go for them. Your burning damage is increased by 40% of your crit strike damage, further increased by 5% for every 20 intelligence you have. Again, burning damage is not what we are building around. So the differences in the board you would see, first of all, in this board you would notice we've taken stuff. We've taken all the things around here, which is another wacky hit chance, by the way, to execute. And again, this build has a lot of wacky hit stuff. This 5% chance should stack with this 10% chance and with the other 10% chance you might be able to get as a bonus. So that's 20, 25, 30% chance to execute non-injured, to execute injured non-elites. Again, that's plenty. Actually, that's 35% excluding any other bonuses to wacky hit chance. Damage to burning, damage to elites, damage reduction from elites, damage reduction from elites, damage reduction from elites. But what we didn't show you is, of course, how this node, we are filling it up with all the intelligence we can get. You can see now we have 65 intelligence. So that's a solid chunk, 7 times getting the 14.4 mastery skill damage. So your meteor is getting super boosted by picking all those intelligence nodes. If you compare this to that, you would see we've also taken physical damage, non-physical damage bonuses, and a little bit of a bit of life there. We've also taken this non-physical damage bonus to elites, as you can see from before. Um, and if we go here, we also filled up a little bit. Um, let's see what we filled up here. Well, there aren't that major of a difference, but what we do have is we have those nodes here, which we didn't have before that I showed you. And overall, I hope it's clear the steps you need to take when leveling up those boards. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer want to be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end, Struck Web. Keep it cool until next time, and goodbye.